Hi, everyone. Thank you, David and Rachel, and everyone at WordCampus for organizing this event and putting together a schedule that is somehow both jam-packed and interesting. It's pretty impressive. So I'm Nicky Agate. I'm head of digital initiatives at the Modern Language Association, where I'm the product and project manager for both Humanities Commons, which is a multi-network, multi-site WordPress, BuddyPress, BPpress install, and its open access Fedora-based repository core, or Commons Open Repository Exchange. And those are the two things I'll be talking to you guys about today. I think we can go to the slides. All right. Now I need to work out the many window situation. Okay. So the MLA, the Modern Language Association, for those of you that aren't in languages and literature, was founded in 1883, and it's one of the oldest and largest scholarly societies in the United States, with over 24,000 members in over 100 countries. So membership is obviously global and runs the gamut from independent scholars, librarians, high school teachers, endowed professors to grad students and poets and so on. So basically our members are your members, those of you that are working in institutions of higher education, your students and your faculty and your librarians and your staff. In January 2013, the MLA launched MLA Commons, which is a multi-site installation of WordPress along with BuddyPress and BPpress, and it's based on the City Universities of New York's Commons in a Box. And the aim was to serve the needs of our members for a range of open and network communication, and to help them showcase all the kinds of scholarship they were doing, using WordPress websites, using profiles, using an open source network of scholarly discussion groups, user sites and blogs, and professional profiles. The network initially comprised of three primary functions. So we had this profile system that permitted MLA members to create a professional presence in a not-for-profit online space where they could easily connect with others in their field without risking giving up their personal data to potentially shadowy presences. There's also a community platform, so that's the part fueled by BuddyPress and BPpress, to allow members to join groups and share ideas and discuss common interests, and particularly to continue the kind of conversations that people were having and were valuing so much at our annual meeting. And then they were saying, well, there's nowhere for us to keep these going afterwards. And, we don't want another listserv. And then finally, there's the publishing platform. So members can come on in and we host the multi-site WordPress install. They can create books, teaching materials, websites, blogs, make their research public, and seek feedback on work in progress. What we realized fairly soon after launching was that there was an essential sort of missing feature in this ecosystem, and that was a place for scholars to properly archive their work and share it with the broader community. So many of our members, like most humanities scholars, are engaging in all sorts of new forms of scholarly communication. They're editing journals and putting on conferences and carefully crafting syllabi and writing libguides and giving public talks and data mining and data visualizing and data cleaning and producing editions and all sorts of things, creating open educational resources. And a lot of this labor often gets unrecognized in the academy, particularly in the humanities, where the tendency still seems to be to reward very traditional publishing in articles and monographs. But we really felt that this work should be part of that scholarly record and made available alongside open access versions of the articles published in journals. And that it should also be made accessible to all without access being hampered by lack. So lack of access to a given institution or library funding or lack of departmental finances to attend a conference in person. So we saw the potential of building something here that could really level the playing field in many ways. So we wanted to create an open access and open source alternative to some of the venture capital or publishing conglomerate owned scholarly communications ecosystems. We wanted a means by which, say, the grad student in the Ukraine could share her research with scholars in the US, where she was hoping to find work, or where a group of panelists at a conference could make their presentations available for people who couldn't make that conference. And actually this happened this year because the bombogenesis, or the big bomb cyclone, happened this year at MLA's annual convention, and many people ended up being stranded in airports and couldn't make it. And what we're seeing now is people uploading their work to the repository, either because they couldn't present it or to make sure that people that couldn't make it can at least experience it. We also wanted a place for maybe a high school teacher who had been assigned a survey course to come and find syllabi and course materials alongside secondary literature. And a place where a digital humanist could offer up a data set for reuse, or an author who'd published in an expensive journal but had the right to share via a repository, was able to do that and allow more people to get that access to that work. And then we wanted to take all of this and build it into the existing social networking fabric of MLA Commons. So that was no small ask. We're now in about late 2014, 2015. So we knew all along that we could not do this on our own. We wouldn't have known where to start. And we knew that if we wanted to do this right, and we really did, in that we wanted to ensure we were abiding by community-tested best practices in terms of digital repository development, we knew we were going to need to partner with the library. We didn't have the knowledge that libraries have of metadata requirements and schema, or OAI sharing, or controlled vocabularies, or any of that. And we're a tiny, tiny team here working on this at the MLA. We also didn't have the server space or the technical know-how to suddenly implement an open source Fedora repository. But because we wanted an open source plugin for our open source stack, we turned to Columbia University Libraries, which is a local institution here in New York, already operating a Fedora repository and with an interest in looking beyond their own IR. So you might say, what was in it for them? I mean, we wanted all this stuff, and what was Columbia going to get out of this? So I'm going to challenge my counterpart here at Columbia, the Director of Scholarly Communication, Mark Newton, who would say that while his unit had successfully partnered with humanities faculty around digital scholarship and publication programs, the uptake of Columbia's institutional repository had been trailing in the humanities and social sciences, particularly around when compared to the professional schools and the sciences. So for Mark's team, working with a professional organization that was focused on the humanities, such as the MLA, offered an opportunity to connect Columbia faculty with a broader readership and to further realize the explicit global mission of the institution. But more than anything else, it was a chance to ask some big questions, particularly around researcher motivation. Could scholars be incentivized to increase their participation in the open access ecosystem if the platforms that enabled them to do so were organized along lines of collaboration and disciplinary affinity rather than institutional belonging? And so we actually just closed a survey last week that we've been doing in collaboration with Columbia Libraries. And we have about 200 responses to this, just asking people, why are you depositing here? And what are your reasons? And what do you know about other solutions in the humanities? We also just ran 2 different focus groups at the MLA convention to try and get at some of these same ideas. We launched the pilot of Core in about May of 2015 to MLA members. So the interface front end is WordPress, BuddyPress. It's a plugin that connects CBox's file management system to Fedora Solar, which is hosted at Columbia. The result is robust content indexing, discovery, display management, and long-term archiving, which is really, really crucial, especially for digital projects now. And the solution, because it's built as a plugin, can be applied by other groups who are using a Fedora Solar stack for asset management and for discovery. For the user, the benefits are multiple. Greater publicity for work, a DOI for easy attribution, the ability to archive the full range of humanities research products, and a system that is truly open access. So unlike some of the commercial alternatives, we're not asking anyone to sign up in order to download work. Like an institutional repository, you have the DOI, you go to the URL, you can download the work. We don't want anything to do with your data. Fortunately, the powers that be at the NEH saw enough promise in core to fund us further with an implementation grant designed to facilitate increased interdisciplinary work and collaboration, and also to look towards integrating our repository with other Fedora-based repositories at institutions of higher education. So really thinking through ways like, how can we have it be that a person in an institution who's also a member can deposit once and have the thing appear in two places? The NEH grant, in addition to another one from the Mellon Foundation, allowed us to develop MLA Commons into Humanities Commons, or what I like to call what we threw at Columbia last year. Ever since the launch of MLA Commons in 2013, the MLA members who had adopted the platform had been telling us that they wanted to collaborate with scholars in fields other than those represented by the MLA. And at the same time, the MLA had been approached by several other member societies who were seeking similar network communication solutions and wanted to know if maybe they could do what we were doing. So the result became Humanities Commons, an interdisciplinary platform that is both multi-site and multi-network, and that we're piloting with 3 partners: the College Art Association, the Association for Jewish Studies, and the Association for Slavic, East European, and Eurasian Studies. In the next couple of months, the Association of University Presses, formerly AAUP, will also be joining us. As the linchpin of this network, Core, the repository, was originally going to house and make openly available the scholarship and resources uploaded by members of any of these societies and other societies that might join the Federation in the future. But while we were building Humanities Commons, we started to realize that we might be able to make this not just a nonprofit network of scholarly societies, but also a truly collaborative, free and open platform supported by the scholarly societies, but available to anyone working in the humanities, no matter their institutional or societal affiliation. To that end, the Humanities Commons we launched in public beta in December 2016 consisted of a multi-network constellation with 1 multi-site install per society, public and private BuddyPress, BPpress groups, and all orbiting around a central, totally open platform for discussion, collaboration, profile sharing, and Core, the repository. The idea was that Core would become the vital space for interdisciplinary interaction and communication, something that's currently lacking in the academic humanities. So here you can see some of the functionality of the Commons. As I mentioned, you can create a robust research profile. One of our developers has been working hard on a plugin that enables people to enter their academic interests that fuels the basic research profile. You can then connect and find others in your field, join and create advocacy groups, working groups. We have that BuddyPress ability to have a group be private public or hidden. And so some people who are working on more sensitive issues choose to go for a hidden group. People that really want to work things out in public are going for the public group. We also have online discussion places. People are using the Commons now for teaching, creating groups for their classes, creating WordPress websites for classes again, for symposiums, for initiatives that span different institutions. People are uploading teaching materials and scholarship, finding them, tweeting about what they're doing with them, and archiving their work. So Humanities Commons launched in December 2016. And on the next few slides, I'll show you an example of some of the diversity that has come into the Commons. So our members now come from a wide range of countries. So this sample here on the slide is from just 1 month. So an example, 1 month, we had new users from all these places. We're also having people from many, many institutions. Each of the institutions on here has at least 20 people who are members of the Commons. And then that sort of diversity and variety continues in terms of the roles that people have. So 7% identifying as adjunct, instructor, or lecturer, 42% identifying as assistant, associate, or full professor, 20% as a grad student or a recent grad student, and then other common titles, people who call themselves independent scholars, like we have librarians, researchers. There are actually over 100, maybe over 200 different titles that people have put in here, but 75% of them fall into these categories. Oh, I went too early there. So the newly expanded Commons certainly prompted new questions for the relationship with Columbia, and has required even greater dialogue between us in the form of bi-weekly meetings and Slack conversations and shared Trello boards, and yes, even in the bar that's in the title of this talk. We have to be able to check innovation against the practicalities of scale and scope. So how best are we going to handle forward migration to sort of elaborated controlled vocabularies? And are we going to draw a line at the boundaries of humanities scholarship, or if someone sees their work as belonging here, do we include that? Now that membership of the Commons is no longer tied to scholarly society membership, it's a little easier for people to not be who they say they are. We haven't had too many cases of this, but we have to think about, and we've had to have ongoing conversations about what we'll do if someone uploads a series of cat pictures of scholarship, or a plagiarized essay, or some malevolent code. It is an ongoing conversation, though, and it's a conversation that we are enjoying exploring together, even as we need to be as open as possible with one another, excuse me. And the connection to Humanities Commons has really driven the use of core, and vice versa. At the time of deposit, a member can choose to associate his or her object with up to 5 of the special interest groups that are fueled by BuddyPress and BBPress. And that triggers inclusion of that item in the group's library, but it also sends email notifications to the members of that group, telling them that something new that they're going to be interested in is available. And this is huge if you're a member of a group that's, say you're a member of a speculative fiction group. When you upload something that you know those people are going to be interested in, you have a way of reaching your immediate and most likely readers without having to do anything other than select the group at the time of deposit. And the results speak for themselves. So we did a bit of a survey and looked at the number of downloads for items that have been shared with 0 groups and items that have been shared with just 1 group. And on average, there were 257% more downloads if people shared with just one group. We have additional discoverability powered by something we just put out recently. It's an Elastic Press powered plugin built by one of our developers to surface and suggest materials relevant to the user based on the academic interests and professional interests that they add to their profile. It's built as a widget. We call it the suggestion engine, and it has 3 parts. It can suggest members that you might want to follow. It can suggest groups you might want to join. And then it suggests items in the repository that are likely to be of interest to you because our subjects in the repository and our academic interests in the profile are aligned. BuddyPress activity stream functionality has also been tightly woven into the fabric of the repository. So objects deposited in it are discoverable on the homepages of the various groups where members can talk about them. And we've added core deposits to user profiles. And I'm not showing you this because I'm an egomaniac, but because my cat has super cute paws. But there you see, once you upload something into core, it automatically appears on your profile, articles, dissertations, conference papers, etc. Again, we're trying to really make visible some of those less traditional forms or unrecognized forms of scholarly communication, and to enable people who, maybe have written a dissertation and then decided that becoming an academic is not for them, ways to get the product of all that labor out there, because it's original research and it could be useful to someone. Discoverability, along with interoperability and ease of use, are a few of our areas of focus in this next phase of core development. So in the year since our beta launch, we've worked with the people at Google Scholar and ORCID and Base OA and Share to ensure that items that are deposited in Humanities Commons are indexed properly and consistently and available to people who are using apps to find open access versions of work, so apps such as OA Button and Unpaywall. We've also implemented a widgetized landing page for each society's repository. So each society in the Commons has its own landing page where they can surface the material that's most likely to be of interest to their own users. It can create collections based on conferences and meetings, based on national and international events. And this is just a small piece of user feedback that I think illustrates the positive response we've had to the discoverability so far. This person was really quite surprised. We've also made considerable progress since the pilot. Thanks to Martin Eve, an English scholar who contributed to our open source code, we now automatically fill in the metadata for articles and book chapters with a publisher DOI, which saves users from having to enter all that information themselves. Obviously, we've expanded our subject areas from languages and literatures to across the humanities, going from several hundred to over 4,000. We've improved our search functionality by implementing Elasticsearch across the Commons. And like I said, we've mapped our entire subject taxonomy to our academic interest taxonomy to enable the suggestion engine to work. I just really briefly, for the rest of the time I have available, wanted to zoom out and show you a little bit of what people are doing with the rest of the Commons to tell their stories. Mostly people are doing this through websites, but there are so many different ways that people are using WordPress on the Commons that I thought it might be interesting to share. So some scholars, such as this one, are building powerful media-rich websites with videos of them talking, embedded slide shares, and so on. These are people who maybe don't have permanent affiliations somewhere or don't have the ability to edit their own faculty page at their institution. And so they're really interested in coming here and having a one-stop place to send people to show their work. Others are building sites to commemorate events, collecting and crowdsourcing materials for them. This site was built by one of our partners, ACES. Others are using a CommentPress, which is a WordPress plugin that allows for open peer review. So what Whitney Tretian did here was she had her students upload their work. It was a graduate course. And then she sort of went on a Twitter rampage and invited people in to come and peer review these works. And people really responded. So the works are here, people respond on a paragraph level. And now she is working with them to put it into a more formal digital publication with revised versions. Similarly, this is another version of CommentPress for a volume called Digital Pedagogy in the Humanities, which has 4 editors, 60 authors, and something like 600 different artifacts or examples of digital pedagogy. It is currently available in this form, but for a long time they were open in batches for open peer review. And now we're working here in digital initiatives to create a platform that will allow people to mix and match their own essays from here and their own examples of digital pedagogy, tag them on the front end, and then we'll have everything, all the what they call keywords or essays and the artifacts archived in core so that they will continue to be accessed or be able to be accessed moving forward. Some of the upcoming work on the platform further expands the idea of allowing humanities scholars and professionals to tell in-depth stories about the wide range of work they do, and hopefully to show that work to tenure and promotion committees, potential employers, and so on, and be able to explain the importance of it. We think that Humanities Commons and Core have a real chance to succeed. We still feel like we're very much in our infancy. And as I said, we're a tiny team, but we do invite everyone here today to connect our work with your local networks. In the broadest sense of collaboration, we're looking to our community and all of your thoughts and experiences on our platform. And any feedback you have will be immensely helpful to us. And if you guys feel like you might see pathways to collaboration, we'd love to hear about them. Honestly think that if we can combine our organizational strengths and work through some of the challenges of organizational culture and expectation, we might be able to affect change for scholars who might otherwise not connect necessarily with institutional missives or anthems to shift towards open practices. Like we might be able to build something that allows them to tell this story and happens to be serving the broader community by being open in the process. And that's it. Thank you. Okay, I have a question. I'm very interested in the plugin to integrate Fedora, Silla, and WordPress. Where can I learn more about that and maybe see the code? The code is all available in GitHub. I am just going to Slack my one of my developers right now and get the exact link for you, and I'll post it in the chat. So someone's asking if we've considered supporting web mentions. So we have been looking at the W3C standards, and it's definitely something that is in our view. We just haven't gotten there yet. As I said, we're tiny. And we right now are on 2 different grants, and so have a certain number of things that we have to do for a certain deadline for those grants. But we're also in the process of a large sustainability and business modeling project to move forward. And that's when we're going to start to be able to support some of these other options. If a scholar wishes to host, okay, Jenny, I'm trying to understand here. You're saying if they wish to host their profile independently, what do you mean by that? Sorry. I can answer the second question. if they have a self-hosted WP site, yeah, they can link to that from their profile. So on the profiles on Humanities Commons, there is a place for you to put, your Twitter and your Facebook and anything else, but also a place for you to put your website. So you can link to that from your profile. They can also, if they host their site on Humanities Commons, they can download the XML at any point. So they can export it and then import it into WordPress if they want to self-host later. How do you manage inactive users? That is a huge, okay. I'm getting questions in two places. All right. How do we manage inactive users? That's a big question. It's something we're trying to think through different methods for combating right now. One of the things we're doing is, which I think is at the top of our Trello priority lane right now, is to work on notifications for people, so that basically life cycle based notifications. So after maybe 3 weeks, we are able to tell someone, hey, here's all this new stuff that is available that matches your interests, come on back and see. But yeah, I mean, to a certain degree, we have different types of users, right? And MLA Commons definitely always had this. You have people who are lurkers. When I first started, we had these MLA Commons blogger badges, and I wanted to make MLA Commons lurker badges because so many people came to me and said, oh, I'm on the Commons a whole bunch, but I just don't want to put myself out there just yet. So I guess I don't really know how to define inactive. People have different needs for it. I do think that the fact that we can send notifications, particularly about open access scholarship being available, to people via email is really important in getting them back, bringing them back in. Given the sustainability question for funding, what is the possible likelihood that users are abandoned in the future? I would say the likelihood, if we have anything to do with it, is very low. And certainly anything that is in core is archived and backed up 4 times an hour in 3 different locations. The sustainability modeling that we're doing right now is a really, really important part of this process, but we're confident that the response we've gotten and the people who are coming to us and telling us that they want this for their society or for their organization has so far been very positive and promising. Okay, I'm being asked, is this all really one giant CBox? Is hcommons.org really the same install? So we have a root blog. I think yes, but I think I need to check that. We have a root blog, which is one of the societies, and then the others that are all around it. Sorry, this question might be better for one of our developers. We're having regular calls with the CBox team because as we develop, we've gone a slightly different path from them, but we're trying, we're both in New York. We're trying to share code and make sure that we're not duplicating efforts. So if CBox is making something new, maybe we can focus on another area, or we can work together to improve things. One of our developers has just told us, in answer to your question, Jim, yes, indeed, we are one giant CBox install. Chris, you're asking about our funding and business model. So that is the process that we're currently deep in. We have a Mellon grant to help us through this process. We also have an NEH grant, as I said, for core. And the funding and business modeling, we have a consultant who's working with us now. And we're just trying to work through various possibilities and iterations and how it might look to have a society governed and supported nonprofit sort of alternative to some of the other things that are out there. Are there other examples in the wild that we're looking at as exemplars? I think looking maybe at some library consortium models is one interesting path, but we're still very much exploring. Like I said, we only launched in December 2016. And so we're just working through this sustainability modeling process right now. And probably in a year, 6 months, I'd be able to tell you a lot more about how that's going. If you have examples that you see as exemplary, I'd love to hear about them.